What's up guys, Duke here, and I want to talk to you today all about Summer's War progression, how to go from early to mid to late game. First, a quick aside, it's been a while since I've been able to record a video. I spend almost no time at home. I'm usually on the road. I've been busy like crazy with meetings and everything every day. So thanks for your patience and waiting for these videos. Lots more great content to come though. So let's get back into progression. And how do you progress in Summer's War? How do you get beyond your current stage of progression? What enables progression, number one, would be runes. This also encompasses grindstones as well as enchants for runes, but runes determine the stats of your monster, and that is what makes a monster good. When you see, wow, he's got such a great, Zyros or Lucian or whatever, it's really all about the runes. Now, skill ups are also essential. Skill ups can really increase the damage as well as the chance of debuffs. So more importantly, they can reduce the cooldown of certain skills, allowing you to use them much, much more often. Sometimes even up to like 2 rounds. You can go from a 4-round cooldown to a 2-round cooldown, which is huge. Glory buildings cannot be underestimated. These are buffs that will last everywhere. They're permanent buffs. They will help you in all content, PvP as well as PvE. And you really can't underestimate how important these are. What this means for you is do not buy scrolls with glory points. Only buy Devilmons and upgrade your glory buildings if you want to progress in the game. Summons are the least important. Now, is it useful to get Zyros? Sure. But is it essential? No. You can actually clear all PvE content in the game. So we're talking R5, TOA Hard, all the Rift Beast dungeons. You can clear all of that using farmable mobs, fusible mobs, etc. And of course the homunculus helps, but it's not essential. You can actually accomplish all of these using farmable mobs. So what that means is people place way too much emphasis on summoning and not enough emphasis on rune farming. If you want to move from one level of progression to the next, you really should be farming runes. That should be number one on your list. So let's define what the levels of progression are and what you should be doing during these times. So early game is defined as basically when you install, you start the game, begin the tutorial, all the way up until Giants B10 Auto. That's included within early game. So Giants B10 Auto is so important because runes are the most essential thing to enable progression. So your first focus should really be making a team of 5-star mobs who will farm Giants B10 for you. After that, you want to get your 6-star farmer, and again, this should be one of your Giants B10 mobs, such as Sigmaris or Veramos. And then make sure you 6-star max skill and rune up your Giants B10 team. That should be your main focus. What if you summon Vanessa at level 8? Put her in storage. You're not going to use Vanessa as a level 8. You're not going to use Vanessa to farm giants. Yeah, Vanessa's great. I love her. I use her. But you're not going to use her early game. An example of a farmable Giants B10 team would be Sigmaris lead with Veramos, Valadian, Bernard, and Shannon. This would involve 2 fusions, yes. Veramos is more essential than Sigmaris. Sigmaris you can replace with any other non-fire nukers. Veramos can be sort of replaced with Kona, although it's not as good. I highly recommend fusing Vero. Just such an amazing mod to use. Now, what is mid-game? Basically, Dragons B10. Mid-game starts when you can auto Dragons B10. So you've got to get there, you got to build that Dragons B10 team. A farmable team would be, again, Sig, Vero, Bella, Bernard, and just throw in Kona instead of Shannon. Does this team work? Yeah, it does, but it's not the fastest necessarily. And it would be better if you had a couple of non-farmable mobs, such as Verdahile, the Fire Vampire, for leader, and then and replace Bernard with Verd, and then replace Kona with Megan, for example. From here, you can actually branch off in a number of different directions. This is when you can start thinking about progressing in TOA, and you actually can build a TOA team. Beretta is amazing for TOA. You can use Vero again. Hemos is good for dots. You can use your Bella and your Shannon if you already have that. Spectra is also really quite good for TOA. Also viable for dragons as a nuker. Amon is sort of a special mention here. You should not build Amon early game. Definitely do not, because Amon requires mid-game runes to be even viable. It requires a lot of different stats. It requires speed as well as HP as well as crit rate to be 100%, and so that's really hard. But why is Amon on my farmable TOA list? It's because it's so hard to find a good provoker. Amon can provoke the bosses, and that makes life so much easier for you. So I don't really recommend you build Amon. If you have a better provoker, such as Basalt or Mav, please use those instead. But it's just a farmable option. Okay, at this point, you can also think about PvP. Guild Wars is typically you start getting serious about Guild Wars in mid-game, both offense and defense. You want to think about your arena offense, your arena defense as well. But keep in mind that honestly, arena and Guild Wars, even TOA, none of those are really going to help you progress as much as dragons until you can get to Necro. And when you can do Necro, B10, that's essentially when you're getting into late game. So Necro mobs typically want to be Violent Revenge, and you get all those runes from dragons. Dragons mobs, yeah, sure, Violent would be great, but you can use Swift on all of your mobs that normally would use Violent, and you should be fine in dragons up until you can farm dragons well. So an example of a farmable Necro B10 team would be Lukasha. This is your Fire Harpy with Double Rauk, Fire Panda, and Colleen. This would be a pure fire team and would use Lukasha as lead. You can also use Kumai for slow. There's not a lot of farmable slowing mobs. A couple other fusion mobs that are pretty good would be your Wind Vampire is viable for Necro as well as R5, and the Wind Ninetales as well. I haven't listed them here though because I don't know if it's worth fusing them just for Necro necessarily. There's a lot of better Necro mods that are not farmable, such as Adrian. There's quite a few. You can even use Lucians. I use Double Lucian. Liches are great, Dark, Water, Wind Lich, for example. Rakshasas are nice. Ran, for example, have that skill 1 slow. So, there's a lot of different options for Necro. This is just a farmable team. Okay, once you have Necro B10 down, you want to get that down before you think about R5. And the reason for that is that R5, 1/3 of the drops that you get from R5 will be useless if you can't farm Necro. A lot of people try to jump right into raids without doing Necro. It's not a good idea because so many of your drops are just going to be useless because you can't get those runes. So an example of a farmable R5 team would be Fire Panda for lead, plus Darien in the front. You can use Colleen, Bella, Kona, and Ardella in the back. Notice that a lot of these mobs are the same ones you can use throughout all the different PvE content. Ardella is quite squishy. Sometimes it helps to put her on Vamp runes, by the way, but she can do quite a bit of damage. Okay, well, once you got your Necro B10 down, your R5 down, you can start thinking about TOA hard, trying to clear that. A speed clear arena offense such as Double Lucian or like Tiana Galleon, Zyros, etc. Then make your rune farming runs faster and your R5 runs faster. Speed Giants, Dragons, Necro B10 as well as R5. Crafting and max skill evolving a homunculus really should only be done late game anyway, because it's best to do this when you can get at least an A+, if not S rank in each of the element dungeons. Now I actually crafted mine before they nerfed it, and so it's a lot easier to do it now. But the idea is that the homunculus is a very versatile mob, but it takes a lot of farming. I mean, thousands and thousands of materials. So that time would be much better off farming runes, to be honest, until you hit late game. And once you're late game, then you can just sort of tweak little things here and there. That's why homunculus is a good time for you to think about crafting that. What defines end game? There's a whole lot of different opinions on that, but you really should be able to clear all of the content we just discussed here pretty well, be able to reach a decent rank in arena, and have speed teams for just about everything, PvE-wise. So I didn't add that here because if you're end game, you don't really have any progression. There's nowhere that you need to go from there. You're basically done. You can just make little tweaks, always make things faster, better, stronger, etc. So I hope this helped you, and I hope you take away the point that really runes determine progression. That's the number one. Runes really can determine progression the most by far. And so if you ever feel stuck and you're like, I can't get past early game, I can't get past mid game, work on runes and rune farming teams and you'll see a big difference. Hopefully you found that useful. Please like if you did, subscribe, and support to keep them coming. Thanks everyone.